As believers, we're called to be a part of a universal church family, and we have a grave responsibility to care for one another and our spiritual needs. Good morning. This is Pastor Ernie Lewis of the Blue Point Church in Sisney, Illinois, with your thoughts for Thursday. Paul writes a letter to the churches that were scattered throughout Asia to deal with several problems there. Most notably, their tendency to leave the gospel of grace and go back to that doctrine of a works salvation. He is actually begging the brethren to watch over one another with love and care, especially when it comes to the need of restoration. So he says in Galatians chapter 6 and verse 1, "Brothers, if anyone is caught in any transgression, you who are spiritual should restore him in a spirit of gentleness. Keep watch on yourself, lest you too be tempted, and bear one another's burdens. So fulfill the law of Christ. For if anyone thinks he is something when he is nothing, he deceives himself." We all realize how easy it is to be overcome by temptation or a sin, a transgression of God's law. Paul is here calling on us to be perceptive, to look for those struggles among our brethren. And when we see someone overcome by sin, to step in and help them. Now, first of all, we are to consider our own spiritual life with the Lord, lest we just be judgmental or critical of others without really offering any real assistance. He also reminds us to seek to restore a brother with a spirit of gentleness. Now, this is not judgmental at all, but it has their own best interest at heart within us. And when someone falls into sin, they're often defensive and they don't want to admit they have a problem that needs to be dealt with. So when we are dealing with someone to show kindness and gentleness, we may have a better chance to draw close and assist that one who is struggling with a temptation or a sin. He also reminds us to keep watch on ourselves so that we don't find ourselves tempted like this brother and drawn into the same line of sin in our own life. He reminds us that bearing one another's burden fulfills the law of Christ. That particular law being, thou shalt love thy neighbor as thyself. And if that kind of law is present in us, we will certainly be concerned with the needs and the care of others. It may be very difficult to approach a brother who has fallen into sin or even becoming distant from the church and Christian fellowship, but this is so necessary. Paul also reminds us of the tendency to look down upon the weak, but we must realize how easily Satan can draw one away from the fold of the Lord Jesus Christ. He says here, if anyone thinks he is something, when he is nothing, he deceives himself. So we must treat any kind of care for another with great humility. And of course, that realization that, but for the grace of God, that could be me in this situation. So with love and tenderness and gentleness, let's look after that one today that needs our help.